Welcome to today's edition of Blue Talks. On today's edition, we'll be talking about cybersecurity. The last 2 years have brought this to the fore, have brought this, made this even more prominent. And as such, everybody is now more conscious about, maybe because we rely more on the internet, rely more on data, rely more on technology. And we're now very more conscious about things around concerning privacy, security, and how our data or information is used. And this morning, we have our resident expert, Chukwudin Gene, here, who will talk to us about cybersecurity or security basics amidst an increasing cyber attacks. I mean, it's no longer news that even the biggest companies in the world are being attacked or are prone to being attacked as well. So Chukwudi will be sharing with us some tips how to identify or how to stay safe online and still be productive. Welcome, Chips.
Thank you very much, Taiwo. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here once again.
Always a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, always a pleasure to be on this with you. Okay. It's a pleasure to be here once again for this edition of Blue Talks, where we talk about staying cyber secure. Today, we'll be talking about security basics amidst increasing cyber attacks. And it is necessary because despite the escalation in cyber attacks, if we adhere to security basics, it reduces the risk of us being victims of cyber attacks. I want to put it out there that cyber attacks will happen and they will continue to happen. There is nothing you will do that is going to eradicate it totally. However, there are things that you can do that will help you reduce the risk of being a victim of a cyber attack. Now, today's session, it's very important because October is Cyber Security Awareness Month globally. And the theme of this year's Cyber Security Awareness Month is do your part, be cyber smart. It's important because we all have a part to play in order to ensure we are cyber secure, okay? You have a part to play, I have a part to play. Organizations and institutions that you have a sort of affiliation with, your financial institutions, your telecom subscribers that you have a business with or you have an account with, they have their part to play, but you also have your part to play, okay? So we'll go into the meat of the session, and we are going to start with a question. All right, we're going to start with a question, and the question is this: how long can you stay without internet connectivity? Okay. The questions will appear on the polls, so you can supply your answers on what you feel or what your answer to this question is. How long can you stay without internet connectivity? How long can you stay without digitization? Okay, is it one day? Can you stay a whole day without internet connectivity? Can you stay a whole week without internet connectivity? Can you stay a whole month without internet connectivity? How long will you be able to survive as an individual? How long will your business survive? Without internet connectivity. If you lose internet connectivity for your business for a whole day, what happens to your customers? How critical is it to your business? It is, okay. So let me know the answer to these questions. And then when you answer these questions, when you click on the polls, let us know You may not need to let us know, but just this is a question to yourself, okay? Go back and ask yourself, this time last year, 2019, before the advent of the pandemic, before COVID-19 came into our lives, how long can you stay without internet connectivity? So if I was posing this question to you this time last year, how long can you stay without internet connectivity? Okay, so if you're able to answer those two questions, then you will be able to understand how your cyber risk have increased between 2019, before the advent of COVID and the pandemic, and today that we are living post the pandemic. Okay, it will also give you insight on how the risk to yourself and to your family and to people around you have increased. Okay, so while we are thinking and trying to answer those questions, we'll go straight to definition of terms, some of the terms that we'll be throwing around in the course of this session. So there are certain terms that I'll be using in the course of the presentation. Some of the terms include cybersecurity, cybersecurity threat, cybercrime, cyberbullying. Okay, now what is cybersecurity? In layman terms, without being very technical, cybersecurity refers to the way that individuals and organizations reduce the risk of cyber threats and attack. Notice the emphasis on reducing the risk. Okay, so in cybersecurity, you're trying to reduce the risk of cyber threats or cyber attacks happening to you or to your organization. That is what you're trying to do. You're not trying to eliminate it totally. You're just trying to make it more difficult for your adversary or more difficult for you to be a victim, reducing the probability of that happening to you. Okay, now cybersecurity threats speaks to malicious and deliberate attack by an individual or an organization to gain unauthorized access. Okay, the whole intention of cybersecurity threat is to gain unauthorized access. So once someone is trying to gain access to something he is not authorized to, the person is a threat to you. Okay, to gain unauthorized access to another individual or organization's network with the intention to damage, to disrupt, or to steal its assets, okay? To steal intellectual property or any other form of sensitive data that belongs to the person. So, and the funny thing is that sometimes we put ourselves in a position where we are a sort of threat to others. Once you find yourself in a position where you're trying to access information that belongs to someone else that you're not explicitly authorized to access, you're making yourself a threat to those people. So that's cybersecurity threat. Anything that intends to gain unauthorized access to another individual, to another organization's assets, with the intent to damage it, to disrupt it, to steal it, or to use it for any nefarious purpose, is a cybersecurity threat. Okay. Then cybercrime speaks to criminal activities that are perpetrated using computers, computing devices, and computer networks. So anytime a crime is perpetrated using computing devices, using a computer network, we refer to crime as a cyber crime. Okay. Cyberbullying speaks to the use of information and communication networks and computing devices to mistreat people, to harass them, and to embarrass them. Okay. Cyberbullying, was not very, very common in our environment. However, it's gradually rearing its head in our environment, where kids are being bullied online by their peers, where people are being stalked on social media for one reason or the other. And we need to be aware of these things. So, what are the kind of cybersecurity threats that we are exposed to? That is what we are going to be looking at next. Okay. What are the kind of cybersecurity threats that we can be exposed to as a people? Now, we've tried as much as we can to limit this to cybersecurity threats that affect people, the people part of cybersecurity threat. In cybersecurity, cybersecurity is made up of different parts. You have the people part, you have the technology part, and you have the process part. Now, for the purpose of our discussion today, we are focusing on the people part. And these types of cybersecurity threats are focused on the people part. Okay, so it's not an exhaustive list, but it's the one that affects me and you as individuals. Okay, and at the top of the types of cybersecurity threat is social engineering. And social engineering is the art of manipulating people so that they can give out confidential information. Okay, so in manipulating people, they make use of psychological attributes of people to try to make them give up confidential information. Some of these psychological attributes include fear, include greed, include not knowing about some certain things. So they try to exploit these things in order to make you give up confidential information. A very good example is somebody can come up with a campaign on social media and say the first 50 people to send a WhatsApp message to this number will get 5,000 naira airtime or 1,000 naira airtime. And you see people rush to send messages to that WhatsApp number. They've not sat down to think, who is this person? Why does he want to give the first 50 people so amount of money? Okay. And that's a form of social engineering. When I do that, if you do something like that and people send in their messages, you have their phone numbers. That's a very good way for you to harvest phone numbers that belong to people. And you are not even at liberty to actually live up to your promise. Well, at the end of the day, you've been able to get some information. That is how that's just one form of social engineering where people rely on greed, okay? And there's some other times they rely on fear. Okay, you get a message, you get an email, you get an SMS, or somebody calls you to tell you that your account has been blocked for so reasons, and that for that account to be unblocked, you need to click on the link and you need to supply them with an ID or one number that will be sent to your phone so that they will be able to unlock your account. Now, out of fear, if you are not sure how to check your account to know whether your account is blocked or not, you can be afraid and take that action out of fear. So that is what social engineers do. They try to manipulate people using psychological means so that we can give up confidential information that on a very good day you're not going to give out to others. So social engineering is at the top of the cybersecurity threat that affects individuals. And some of the other types of cybersecurity threats that are listed here are forms of social engineering. But it was important for us to list it differently so that we can emphasize on it and how it affects us, okay? So another form of cybersecurity threat, which is very common. It's as old as computing itself, and it has refused to go away. And if something is old and have refused to go away, that means it's proven to be successful. Okay, it's called phishing. Phishing is one of the oldest forms of social engineering and cybersecurity threat. Okay, so phishing is when malicious people send you unsolicited mails that you're not expecting. They send it to you. They always have two intentions. They either want you to click on a link so that you can enter your details on that link, or for you to open a document that is attached to the email that they sent you. Now, when you open that document, what will normally happen is that the attachment in that mail is normally weaponized. When we say weaponized, they've attached some form of malware and virus to that attachment. So when you open that, whoever sent that mail will have the ability to either take over your system or extract some sensitive information from your system. So phishing is a very, very important type of cybersecurity threat. Then you have smishing and phishing. Smishing and phishing are related to phishing. However, their channels are different. In phishing, the channel is via emails. In smishing, the channel is via SMS. In phishing, the channel is via voice calls, okay? The channel is via voice calls. Then we have also malware. Malware is a form of cyber security threat. Okay, I'll use a very good example of a malware that just came out this month, this October, I think at the end of next month. Cybersecurity researchers discovered it at the end of September. And the name of the malware is Flubot. Okay, so Flubot makes use of smishing as its mode of spreading to people. Okay. Okay, so that is what it does. So when a phone gets infected with Flubot, Flubot extracts the contact list. Among all the terrible things that Flubot can do on that Android phone, it can clone your banking application. It can do a couple of things. But one of the things it does is to export your contact list to a server or to a central location that is managed by the owners of the malware. Now, when they do that, the next thing they will do is that they will send an SMS to everybody on your contact list, telling them that they've been infected with the Flubot malware and that they need to click on a particular link to update their devices. Now, when you receive that message, that smishing message from that Flubot, you are not yet infected with the malware, but they are trying to make use of the fact that you will be afraid that you are infected to click on that link in order to update. And once you click on the link and update and install Flubot on your device becomes infected. And the attackers can do anything they want on your device, from stealing card information when you're doing transactions to diverting, cloning your banking application, diverting your OTP when you're trying to do a transaction. It's a very, very dangerous malware. So malware is a key cybersecurity threat. Then another one like malware, which is part of the malware family, but it's different, is ransomware. Ransomware is, most times I term it cyber kidnapping. So where somebody basically sends a malware to your system, the malware locks up your system and then requests for a ransom before your system can be released back to you. If you don't pay the ransom, you will not be able to use your system. You only have one option, which is to rebuild your system from scratch. And when you rebuild your system from scratch, if you don't have any form of backups for your system, you will lose everything that is on your system. So you have So the whole idea is for you to pay the ransom, and they will give you a key to unlock your system and start using your system as if nothing happened. Ransomware is a very, very deadly kind of cybersecurity attack. In May this year, a company in the US called Colonial Pipeline were involved in a ransomware attack. Their systems were attacked by ransomware, and a ransom of $5 million was asked for. Now, during that period, Colonial Pipeline is in the business of oil and gas business, and they were a very major supplier in that state in US. It led to an increase in price of gas and so many other things that happened during that period before they paid the ransom. However, our advice is not to pay ransoms. Okay, so that's ransomware. It's a type of cybersecurity threat, and it is very dangerous. So before we go to the next slide and talk about the other things, we want to look at the results of our poll, the question we asked when we started. Okay, and okay, from our pool, 20%, we have 20% of all the respondents saying that they can do less than 10 minutes. Okay, another 20% less than 30 minutes, 16% less than 1 hour, 44% less than 1 day, and nobody actually said they can stay without the internet for less than a week. Okay, so the maximum that the participants can stay without internet is less than 1 day. And what does that tell us? That tells us that internet connectivity is very, very key. It's become ingrained as part of our lives. Okay, and that is the reason why we are seeing increase in cyber security attacks. So, and that's the next thing we are going to look at. We are going to look at the trend. We're going to look at the pattern of behaviors that have led to increase in cybersecurity attacks. Okay, which, remember that our topic, we are talking about security basics we need to adhere to in the light of the increase in cybersecurity attacks. So one of the behaviors and one of the things that have led to an increase in cyber security attacks is the increase in online businesses and increase in online interaction. Okay, prior to COVID, most families had probably just 2 phones. The man had a phone and the woman had a phone. Both phones are connected to the internet. And enter COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdown. And then there was a need for the man to be able to work from home. There is a need for the wife to be able to work from home. There is a need for the kids to be able to connect to their school learning platform to learn. So Oga gets a laptop, Madam gets a laptop, Oga and Madam gets a tab or laptops for the kids, depending on their age range, if they are in primary school, secondary school, or university. So a normal family that their cyber exposure before the pandemic used to be 2 or 3 devices, suddenly moved from 2 or 3 devices to 5, 6 devices. That is just one family, accounting for an over 100% increase in digital footprint. Okay, so this increase in online businesses and interaction is leading to an increase in cybersecurity attack. Why? Because people always go to where the action is happening. Okay, so as all of us are going online for very good reasons, the same way other people are following us online for reasons that are malicious, for reasons that are not so good. Okay, so there is increase in online platforms for payment, there is increase in online platforms for selling, online platforms for buying. Even mainstream organizations that never had online platforms were forced to move to online platforms during the pandemic. And beyond that, with accelerated digitization, businesses are discovering that if they don't move online, they may be out of business. So everybody is moving online, okay? Then technology is also moving us online. We've seen the increase in the use of Internet of Things. That's what we refer to as IoTs. IoTs. So we've seen smart TVs, smart watches, smart CCTV cameras. Before you deploy CCTV camera, you need to have a central box somewhere. You need to run all sorts of wire from the individual CCTV cameras down to that box. But today, with smart CCTV cameras, all that CCTV needs is internet connection. You power up the CCTV, you connect it to a central internet connection, and boom, you can monitor it from your phone. However, what we don't understand most times is that once you connect a device to the internet, you expose that device to risk, to cybersecurity risks. Okay, so we've seen an over 600% increase in cyber crimes since the pandemic. And this matches with the increase in digital footprint online since the pandemic. Let me also go back to the family example. Before, that family probably did not have any dedicated form of internet access. They just had internet access on their phones. But with daddy having to work, mommy having to work, the kids having to connect to their online platform, then they needed something dedicated, a dedicated internet modem or something in their house that would provide internet. So they buy an additional device and they drop it in the house. Okay, so that additional device will now give them opportunity to do some other things, convert their TV to a smart TV, or buy a smart TV, buy a smart CCTV, and so many other things, possibilities. And before you know what is happening, almost every part of your house is connected to the internet. So the radical increase in online businesses and interaction is part of what is driving the increase in cyber attacks. Some people never bought anything online before the pandemic. They preferred their old good way of going to the market to buy their stuff. But today, forced by the pandemic, they buy things online. Some people never sold anything online. They see it as a waste of time. They prefer their old way of having their shop and doing their stuff, but they're all selling online today. Some people never had any form of banking app. They didn't have ATM or anything before the pandemic, but the pandemic forced them because they found out that it would be difficult for them to live without that, and they had to, okay? So these are some of the trends that are affecting the increase in cybersecurity risks, okay? Then another trend is increase in data breaches and privacy risks. So with more people going online, the more data you have online, and the more data you have online, the more the probability of data falling into the wrong people happens. So when we speak about data breach speaks to when confidential, sensitive, or protected information is exposed to an unauthorized person. So anytime confidential information, sensitive information, or protected information is exposed to somebody who is not supposed to view it or have access to it, a data breach have occurred. So we've seen an increase in data breach, both on social media platforms and affecting different companies, okay? Then we've also seen an increase in identity theft, where people are trying to steal other people's identity. People are trying to steal people's BVN, trying to steal their NIN, trying to steal their security number, and things that belong to them. Now, the whole idea of criminals who steal people's identity is to impersonate those people, to file claims on their behalf. Sometime at the beginning of this year, we heard of a very popular Nigerian fraudster that was arrested by FBI. And part of the things he specialized in doing was stealing people's identities, and then using it to file COVID-19 claims on their behalf, okay? To file COVID-19 claims on their behalf. So it is very, very important for us to try to protect our identity, our personally identifiable information. Any information that can personally identify you and distinguish you from the next person is very, very important, okay? Okay, and it's very, very important that you should be very careful where you leave those kind of information, okay? And then in response to the increase in identity theft and increase in data breaches, various regulators in different climes in Nigeria, in Africa, in Europe, in US, have also increased their data and privacy regulation and compelling companies to be very, very careful on how to deal with data that belong to individuals. In Nigeria, we have the NDPR, Nigerian Data Protection Regulation, which governs organizations that are in Nigeria. And NDPR applies to every Nigerian, whether in Nigeria or outside the country. As long as you're a Nigerian, NDPR applies to you. And NDPR mandates that data subjects, which are the owners of the data, must give consent to organizations that have access to their data for that organization to do anything with that data. So, and that is why most times you try to sign up for some things and you see the organization prompting you, do you consent? Do you consent for your data to be used for this purpose or not? And you can click yes or no. So because of increase in data breaches, regulatory bodies are coming up with regulations and trying to enforce these regulations to address this gap, to ensure that data breaches reduce and the incidences of identity theft reduce. So the next thing that is affecting cybersecurity is environmental incidents, and we're not going to spend so much time on this. Some of the environmental incidents are SIM-related frauds. We saw an explosion in SIM-related fraud last year, where a lot of people lost their hard-earned money through fraud that had to do with SIM and using the USSD platform, okay? Then we've also seen an increase in sophistication of local players. Before, our local players, Nigerian actors, their methods were not that sophisticated, okay? But we are beginning to see an increase in the sophistication of Nigerian players. And that's because everything is happening online. So they are finding new and sophisticated methods to perpetrate their cyber crimes, okay? So we have seen increase in sophistication of local players, fashioning malware, different types of malware, okay? And then the reduction in economic activities, some businesses closed down, some offices closed down, they couldn't pay salaries, people were in hardship, and sometimes for some people, when push comes to shove, they'll have to find a way to feed themselves, and they can decide to go into crime. And when they decide to go into crime, cyber crime is where it's happening now, and they can be pushed into cyber crime. Then we have also an increase in social engineering. We've spoken about social engineering at the beginning. So 98%, statistics shows that 98% of all cyber attacks rely on one form of social engineering to deliver their payloads. Remember when I talked about the Flubot malware, I said that the owners of the malware are going to send an SMS telling you that your phone is already infected when your phone is not yet infected. Why? Because they probably got your contact from an infected phone, okay? They tell you that your phone is already infected, that you need to click on a link in order to download an update that will stop your phone from being infected. So that message they sent you it's social engineering. Now, when you click on that link to do an update of your phone to stop Flubot, that is the payload. So the payload is what they actually want to deposit on your system or on your mobile device to take over, okay? And the most popular method of initiating the social engineering attack is phishing. Phishing, because phishing does not cost anything. All you need to do is to open an email. All the attacker needs to do is to open an email address that he will use for the phishing campaign, and then he sends out emails to millions of people, hoping that some of them are going to click, take the bait. Okay, and it's also very important for us to know that, like I've emphasized, I can't overemphasize, is that the primary goal of most cybersecurity attacks is financial. They want to make money. They want to make money either by milking your account dry, or selling your personally identifiable information, or by impersonating you and doing some things on your behalf. Then finally, we've seen an increase in malware attacks, especially mobile malware attacks. We've seen a 54% increase. We saw a 54% increase in new malware variants for mobile platforms in 2020, okay? Also in 2020, an average of 560,000 malware variants were discovered daily in 2020, okay? And then it was estimated this year that a ransomware attack is going to occur every 11 seconds. That's the estimate for this year, okay? And hopefully by the end of the year, we'll see where from data available and figures available, we'll see whether this estimate is correct. But it just shows that malware is on the increase. Okay, so we've seen the types of cyber security threats. We've seen the things that have led to the increase in cybersecurity threats. So the next thing we want to look at is, what are the things that we need to do? What do we need to do? What do I need to do? What are those security basics that I need to adhere to ensure that I reduce the risk of being a victim of a cyber attack? Okay, and I call them cyber health checks. So you can put it as a checklist. It's just like your normal hygiene. You know, right from when we were small, we were taught to keep our environment clean so that we do not get infected with diseases. You know, now keeping your environment clean does not mean you will never get sick. You probably get sick, yes, but it will reduce the number of times you get sick. Okay, so that's why we call this cyber health checks. Doing these things will help you reduce the probability of being a victim of a cyber attack. And one of the things, number one on the list, is for us to use strong passphrases for all our accounts. Making use of strong passphrases for all our accounts, for your social media accounts, for your email accounts, for your transactional accounts. Make use of a very strong passphrase. I gave an example here. I love Stanbic IBTC Bank. Now, if you look at the way I love Stanbic IBTC Bank is crafted, there is uppercase letters, there is lowercase letters, there is numbers, there are special characters, and then the number of character is long. It reduces the probability of a malicious person or a hacker to be able to crack this password, okay? Then the second is the use of multi-factor authentication or second factor authentication for all your transactional platforms, for all your email platforms, and for all your social media accounts. In fact, once a financial platform or a transactional platform does not have a second factor authentication, personally, I will not use it. Okay, once I can do debit and credit, once I'm going to put my hard-earned money there, I'm not going to use it. And when we speak to second factor authentication, we speak to another form of authentication. So when you want to log on to most platforms, you supply your username and you supply your password. Your username and password is what you know. That's what you know. That is what you have it. You know it. Now, second factor authentication now speaks to something else. Maybe what you have. What you have can be that SMS that is sent to your phone, because your phone is what you have, so that you enter that code. What you have can be that second factor authentication software that you install on your phone that will give you a prompt and you will approve. That's what you have. What then? Another factor of authentication is also what you are, which is biometrics. Now, maybe where you can use your Face ID, where you can use the thumbprint on your phone to authenticate yourself further. So it is very, very important to make sure that you have second factor authentication for all your transactional accounts, for all your email accounts. Your email account is important. It's important because if I want to reset your password on your transactional platforms, the reset mail will go to your email address. If you want to reset your password on your social media accounts, the reset mail will go to your email. So it's very, very important for us to make sure that we have second factor authentication for all our social media accounts. Do not disclose your password or card pins to anybody. Please do not disclose your password. Do not disclose your card pin. If you have people who work for you that once in a while you need to give them money, and then you don't have cash and you are not predisposed to go and withdraw, and you decide to give them your ATM card and the pin for them to withdraw what they need to withdraw, please go and get a prepaid card. In Stanbic IBTC, we have different types of prepaid cards that you can use, and you can give it to those people. Anytime you want to give them money to do something, you can load the prepaid card, and you can do that from our app or from our internet banking platform. Then you need to know and manage your friends. Don't accept everybody that requests to be your friend on social media platforms. Okay, it is very important. Okay, because most times your friends get to see some certain things that others are not going to see. And it's also important to use privacy settings to limit who can view your information on social media. Okay, you limit what information is available and who it is available to. It's very, very important. Remember that personal information should remain personal. Okay. Now, before you post, before you tweet, before you forward that mail to that WhatsApp, to every contact on your WhatsApp, always review it, okay? Before you forward that information on your WhatsApp, always review it. Is it true? Can I defend this? Can I defend this position? Can I defend the source of this news? Can I, if I'm put on trial, can I actually take responsibility for what I'm about to post? Think about it. And then before you tweet, think about it. Am I going to regret this tomorrow? Remember, the internet never forgets. Anything you drop on the internet is there. Even if you go back tomorrow to go and delete it, is there. That footprint is there. And when the right people need it, with the right skill set and with the right tools, they can always get it out. Then the last but not the least for our social media, email, and then when it comes to data privacy is to read site privacy policies. A lot of people subscribe to so many sites without even knowing what those guys are going to do with their information. Most of the time, what a site is going to do with your information is referenced in their privacy policy. You don't need to read everything. You just need to scroll and look at the key areas on what they are going to do with your information before you fill that information with your biodata and important information. Then for your personal systems, okay? For your personal systems, it's very, very important for you to keep your system or cell phone updated. Always download updates from your OS provider, download updates from your app providers, okay? Get anti-malware software for your system or mobile devices. Install a software. In Nigeria is a place where people will spend 150,000, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 to buy a mobile device. However, they can't spend 15,000 naira to buy an anti-malware or antivirus that will sit on that device and protect them. Okay, please make sure your phone is protected by an anti-malware software. There are arguments that anti-malware is not going to protect you round the clock. Yes, But I'd rather be in a place where I have an anti-malware that can protect me from 95% of malware that is out there. And I am only exposed to 5% that the antivirus or anti-malware will not be able to detect, right? I'd rather be in that place than be in a place where I am open to attack from every form of malware that is available. So this applies to our phones, to our tabs, and to our computers. Okay, then on our phones, please grant only necessary permission to apps. When you're installing an app, grant the necessary permission. Don't grant all permissions just to the app. When you want to install an app, you give it access to your location, you give it access to your camera, you give it access to your contact list, you give it access to a lot of things. The truth is that anything you grant an app permission to access on your phone, that app will be able to access that thing. And that is why you see people complaining sometimes that they took loan somewhere and then somehow the loan app exports their contact and starts sending messages to them. It's because you give permission to that particular app to access your contact. So generally, when you are downloading an app, know what the app is used for. And once the app starts asking for unnecessary permission, deny those permissions when they are not necessary. Okay. Reduce the use of USB on your system. Okay, USB used to be the primary mode of spreading malware. Sometimes you have instances where you can't do anything but use USB, but we have reduced the use. That reduces the risk. Okay, make an OS firewall. Most of the systems you buy, your Windows systems, your Apple systems, they come with these firewalls turned on by default. Do not disable them except you are very, very sure of what you're doing. Okay, then stay away from freeware, free softwares, cracked softwares, and free movie sites. Stay away from them. They are known ways of downloading malware either to your phone or to your system. And then on your phone, once you're done with an app, delete it. In fact, if you find out that you're using an app only once a month or maybe once in 3 months, delete that app. It doesn't need to be on your phone. When you need to use it, you download it. Why? Now, the operating system on your phone has a risk surface. Every app adds to that risk surface, can be exploited. Every app can be exploited depending on who built it. So the more apps you have on your phone, the more you are increasing the probability of your phone being exploited. So I'd rather have only apps that I use most of the times and I keep them up to date than have one app that I don't use most of the time that I may not even know whether there's an update to it. So it's very, very necessary for us to do that. Do not open attachments in mail from unknown senders or click on any link in such mails. And this is key for phishing. You need to be able to identify phishing mails. And to identify phishing mails, you have to look at the sender. Most times, they try to mask the address of the sender, or they try to mimic a well-known organization like your bank, like a regulator in your country, like a social media company. Most times they send something and they use a hyperlink. One of the ways you can also find out is just to hover your mouse over the hyperlink. It will tell you the actual link that link is going to take you to. But generally, for unsolicited mails you're not expecting, do not click on links or open such attachments. Be careful when connecting to free public Wi-Fi because it's free. The same way you want to use it to do something noble. Some people want to connect to it to see what people on that public Wi-Fi is doing. Have logs for your system and your devices. There have been so many arguments around devices when it comes to emergency and people locking their phone. Please, most modern phones that are in circulation today have a room for emergency contact. Update your emergency contact and people will be able to contact those emergency contacts even when your phone is locked. Just think about all the things that you have on your phone, and if it's not locked, it gets into the wrong hand. think about all the things that can happen. That's enough for you to decide to lock your phone and to also make sure that your system is locked. Okay. And always keep a backup of your critical files online and then, if possible, offline. This is a key way of protecting yourself against ransomware, which is what we mentioned at the beginning. You need to back up. When you have a backup and your system is compromised by ransomware and they're asking for ransom, you find out that all you need to do is to rebuild that system or reset that system to factory setting. And when you do that, because you have a backup of your files somewhere, you restore your files and make sure that you take necessary steps and install the necessary software to ensure that you don't become a victim of ransomware anymore. And then finally, we are not going to finish without talking about our kids. Okay, so for some of us listening, are you aware of what your kid is using that tab, that system that you bought for that kid? What is that kid doing on it? Do you have monitoring? Do you have oversight? Are you able to see? Are you able to review once in a while what that kid is doing using those systems? And that is why it's important for us to have parental guidance app. These parental guidance apps have the capability to limit where your kids can go to. It also have the capability to monitor and present a report, provide you a report of where they are even trying to go, because beyond those sites being blocked, you need to see where they're trying to go so that you begin to understand the influences on your children. Okay, we need to restrict access to content. I've talked about that. Then where possible, we need to restrict information that kids can send out. There are some apps that can do this. So this is very, very necessary to protect their personally identifiable data. Okay, then we need to teach our kids the basics of online safety. Just like when we were growing up, they used to teach us the basic things. Then that when you're walking on the road, you don't talk to strangers and things like that. We also need to teach our kids the basic of online safety. This information you're getting here today, educate your kids, enlighten them. And then encourage your kids to report whenever they are bullied, whether they are bullied online, whether they are bullied offline. When someone is stalking them online or offline, encourage them to always report. In summary, to summarize what we have said about cyber health checks, we have this very small circle that contains 16 things that we can have at the back of our mind. And when we do it, it summarizes everything that we'll be talking about. So we need to think before clicking on that link. You need to think before providing that information to that person that called you over the phone. You need to click before responding or clicking that link in that SMS. Then you need to verify. When somebody calls you to request for private information, you need to verify that request, verify the person. Is it true? True. Who are you? Do you really represent the person you're saying you're representing? You need to verify information before you forward it to others or send it out to others. You need to use strong passwords, okay? Use strong passwords. Protect your password, your passwords, your devices, and your debit cards. It is very important. Protect them, your debit card and your credit card. They are security instruments. You should protect them. You should not give it to anybody, anyhow, okay? Then you need to download all these secure applications on your devices. And then you need to keep your devices, your browsers, and the applications on your system up to date. If you do these things, if you do these basic things that are not difficult, you can even have a checklist and you can tick them off. I've done number 1, I've done number 2, I've done number 3. I assure you that you would have succeeded in reducing the probability of being the victim of a cyber attack. Thank you very much. I will take questions. We'll start taking our questions now.
Hi, Chucks.
Yeah, hi, Taiwo.
Thanks so much for the for the insights or the, the knowledge sharing session as usual. Just trying to get my lighting up again. Yeah, so we have some questions from the audience, and there's so much. Even I have a question, but I'll keep that for later. So people say, how do I say cyber secure in the face of daily requests for BVN in almost all forms filled? So I guess the person is saying that wherever I go, whatever whichever organization I'm trying to sign up with, there's always a request for BVN and so on and so forth. So how do I stay secure in just giving my BVN to various organizations, from the banks to maybe any of these credits, organizations that offer people credit and so on and so forth? I don't know.
Okay, so I think the first thing, I think we've addressed that a little bit in one of the slides where we talked about data breach and we talked about regulations. So first things first, for financial institutions where you need to submit your BVN for one reason or the other, those institutions are bound by the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation to obey it. And because they are bound by it, they need to make sure that those information you are supplying to them, they secured. Sometime in, I think, was it July or August, NIDA actually find a company, I think a company, was it in Sokoto or somewhere, but NIDA actually find a company because of breach of data privacy and data privacy regulation. Okay, so, but to answer the question, I think first things first, you need to check and ask yourself, the people that are requesting this BVN, do they need it? If they don't need it for anything, then you are not at liberty to give it to them. If they're a financial organization, they probably need it to validate your identity as a form of identity. But the truth remains that in the financial services industry, when you provide your BVN to an organization, the organization is bound by the Nigerian data privacy regulation to protect that data, to ensure that that data only gets into the hands of those who have a need to use it. Okay. If it's not a financial institution and they are requesting for your BVN, you just need to treat it on a case-by-case basis. Is this BVN really needed? Is this information really needed by these people? And if they are not, and you are not, it's not a compulsory thing that you must do, you can leave it and leave them and look for alternatives.
Okay, thanks. Thanks. I appreciate that. I think I've had similar worries in the past. I went to do some of this registration. I think it was the same registration. And then I think I went back later or something and I saw everybody's registration. They're just lying in the open and different people, like, can these things be left like this? But I guess at the end of the day, like you said, you have to treat it on a case-by-case basis. So somebody's asking, how do you filter or spot malicious SMS from a valid SMS, either from your bank or other contacts forwarded? I guess maybe because there's all this number masking that people do, so with SMSs, and sometimes you see text from some numbers they're not in your contact list anyways. So how do you spot these?
So when you even receive an SMS from a number that is not in your contact list, that's a red flag. And sometimes it's always good for us to notice patterns. Okay, like personally, my financial institution, I know the numbers, I know the SMS headings they use in sending their SMS. Okay, so if I see something from someone else, from another ID claiming to be my financial institution, that is different from what I know my financial institution have been using to send SMS to me, then the alarm bells will start ringing in my head. I'll now have to do the extra due diligence to verify that this SMS is real. And how do I verify by going through the approved available contact numbers for your institutions to validate that they are the ones that are sending these messages. Okay, that's straightforward. That's very straightforward. You just have to monitor the behavior, know what is normal. Once you know what is normal, when abnormal things start coming, you can easily track it. Okay.
Yeah, okay. I appreciate that so much. So somebody else is asking, how can you identify a spam link or website? I think you mentioned that in your presentation as well, in terms of when you hover the link, you hover over the link, that you will see the destination URL.
Yes, you see the destination URL, and most times the destination URLs are fake. You just have to look at them in full to be able to see. Sometimes the person will start with facebook.com myhome.com. So seeing that facebook.com at the beginning, you would think that it is Facebook. Actually, when you click on that link, you are going to myhome.com.
Yeah.
Always have it at the back of your mind that the main site you're going to is the last one, the last domain name before the .com, before the last dot, whether it's .com, .io, or whatever, that is the main site. Those first ones are just to deceive you. Okay, so you have to look at the link, how you can identify a phishing mail. You have to look at the mail link. Okay, then the first things first, is it unsolicited? Is this somebody you know? If it's not somebody you know, a flag, that's the first flag. Secondly, what's the source email? Is the source email straightforward, or is the source email looking funny? Okay. Thirdly, what are they trying to ask you to do? Are they trying to instill fear? Are they trying to
they're telling me they have money for me. No, they just deposited some money in my account, so okay. I need to.
Are they trying to appeal to the greed in you?
Exactly. I think that's the real key here. It's that greed factor that they're trying to appeal to.
So, are they trying to, pull on any of those psychological cords to make you take action? Once you see that, that's another flag. Then you can now look at the link they are asking you to click on. You can hover over it and know whether it's valid or not. These are just ways to do that. There are so many other ways. There are so many other things, but these are just key ways. Okay.
I mean, you're right. I mean, one of the things that I always say to people is this: that were you expecting any money? That somebody said they just deposited money in your account. If you're not expecting any money, you're not part of any transaction, or to know whatever it is like that. Then there's no you are the one that has sent yourself. You made yourself a bait by even responding to those things. At the end of the day, and I read some of those things and I just laugh. Even though I typically advise people, don't open them. Once you see the subject or you see whatever it is, you should just delete, so that you don't fall prey to the temptation of even clicking on any of the links. But I read them and I laugh just to be able to, and I see that it's the same pattern it's been for years at the end of the day. But like you said, are they appealing to the greed inside you, which is a very, very important point. One comment here, somebody, Clement is asking, is it possible to send us a video or download to our private emails for further action? He's having issues with his laptop or something. Or you want to watch this later on? I think a link will be sent out with the video later. Once you're on here on Zoom here, the link will be sent out to you, and you can always go back and watch it on the Stanbic IBTC YouTube channel. Okay, so I think the last question for now says, good day, how do I stop unsolicited regular messages from my email? Though I've done a lot of unsubscribe to it, but it still keeps coming virtually every day, every week. Thanks.
Okay. So for most email subscribe email platforms, you have a way of marking some of those emails as spam. Okay, so you just select the sender you find, and then you mark his mail as spam. That way, it will never come to your inbox again. For most, when you unsubscribe, some organizations, valid organizations, when you unsubscribe, they'll stop sending you mail. But for those who have malicious intent, they don't stop, they continue sending. So what you can do is to actually mark that email as spam. That feature is available in most of the email providers. Once you mark it as spam, it will always go to your spam folder. It will not come to your inbox and it will not disturb you anymore. Okay, that's one. If you're a more advanced user, you can actually set up a sort of rule to delete that email once it comes into your box. And you don't even get to see it anywhere, whether in your junk or in your inbox, you don't get to see it.
Okay, thanks for that, Chooks. I mean, I have similar issue, and I don't know if I might chime in a bit here. Is that sometimes when you subscribe to certain things like free PDF document, a free template, or a free I mean, when you go to certain sites or subscribe to a newsletter, you should always watch out for like footnotes and certain things like that. When you say this, I agree to terms and conditions, or I agree to some of those things like that. They actually tell you in some of them that you are agreeing to receive communication from affiliate sites or partner sites or people within their network as well. So sometimes while you didn't subscribe directly to those emails that are coming from you, you might be getting them because you subscribe to something somewhere else that they're affiliated with, or to some other site that they're affiliated with. So you should be mindful of that. Oh,
yes, that's absolutely true. And most times when we want something and want to register, we are in a hurry. We just want to get it. We don't get to read all the details and uncheck all the boxes, and we end up subscribing to things that we did not intend to initially. That's actually correct, Taiwo.
Yeah, okay, thanks. We're out of time, but we're trying to see if I can squeeze in one or two questions. Someone wishes to transition into IT cybersecurity. This isn't appropriate for this platform, but you can check online. I'm sure if you Google, you'll find a lot of courses online if you want to switch. Chooks, I think you're inspiring some people to move into cybersecurity. So maybe, in that sense there. And then somebody said, can the bank reduce the activities of scam if the customers who get their emails reported to the bank for them to be traced and prosecuted? I'm not sure. Maybe Chooks wants to answer that question, but I don't know what the bank can do with regards to your personal email.
Okay, what's the question?
Can the bank reduce the activities of the scammer if the customer who gets their emails reports to the bank for them to be traced and prosecuted?
Yes, there are things the bank can do, and there are also limitations to what the bank can do. There are laws. We're in a sovereign nation, and in the sovereign nation, there are law enforcement agencies. Okay, now the responsibility of the bank is to hand over this information to the law enforcement agencies to do their due diligence and use the tools available to them to try to track who those people are, and then based on the evidence that is available, charge them to court. Okay, so as a bank, we will continue to perform our responsibility, which is to do our internal investigation and then hand over to the relevant authorities that are charged with finding out, getting more insight, and then charging to court where necessary.
Okay, great. I mean, hey, there you have it. I didn't even know I didn't know that. Well, like I said, one of the benefits of banking with Stanbic IBTC, I guess. Finally, and I said that before. Is it true that there are some apps one can download on phones to prevent hackers? I think you mentioned some malware prevention software earlier on. Or
antivirus. So you can have anti-malware, and most anti-malware come with firewall on them. Most of them. So you can download them. It doesn't prevent you 100%. Remember at the beginning, I said that there is nothing you are going to do to fully eradicate being a victim of a cyber attack. In fact, the only way you can eradicate yourself from being a victim of a cyber attack is to disconnect yourself from the cyber world. That is, no access to internet, both on your phone and everything you do, no access to the internet. That is the only way. But as long as you're on the internet, you cannot fully eradicate it. But you can take some certain steps, like installing an anti-malware that has a firewall, and making sure that it's always updated, it's always up to date. Some people install out anti-malware and then forget about them without making sure that they're updated. They are more effective when they get updated always. Maybe because you're trying to make sure that your data doesn't get taken up all the time. You don't select the automatic update setting. But the key thing is, once you have an anti-malware, make sure it's updated. If it's not always updated, then the functionality will be reduced. It won't be able to prevent and protect you from new malware. Most anti-malware are signature-based. So as new malware come out and they see their signatures, they have to update their database so that they can identify and stop that. And then one key thing about people, hackers having access to your phone is permissions. Most modern phone OS, you need to explicitly permit anything that is going to happen on your phone before it happens. Before anything installs on your phone, you need to permit it, except you root that phone, okay? Except you root the phone, and these are some of the dangers of rooting the phone. When you root a phone, some of those security permissions are overwritten and your phone can easily be hacked. But apart from that, be careful about the permissions on your phone. And with anti-malware, the chances of that happening will be reduced. Okay.
Okay, thanks a lot. I mean, Chooks, thanks everyone. Appreciate your time, Chooks. Appreciate your time, everyone that has logged on today. This has been our edition of Blue Talks for today. We hope that we have been able to give you the tools, tips, and encouragements to stay cyber secure, to stay secure while you are online. The internet is not going anywhere, and we are relying on it more and more every day for school, for work, for social interactions, for everything, so almost everything at this point in time. So stay secure. Our security online is our personal responsibility, and we need to take the right measures and steps in doing that. Am I correct in saying that, Troops?
Yes, we need to play our part. We have a part to play. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a part to play.
Right? Once again, thanks everyone. Thanks, Troops. Look forward to having you again soon. Bye for now.
Thanks, Taiwo. And thank you everyone for listening. Bye.